Hello, my name is Anna and I love trying vintage recipes. So today I'm trying 3 recipes for vintage Valentine's Day desserts. And I'm doing something a little different today. Normally I stick to 1 cookbook for each video, but this time I decided to mix it up. So today I'm using 3 different cookbooks. Today's recipes come to us from Better Homes and Gardens Holiday Cookbook. This is from the 1950s. Cookie Cookbook, this is from the 1960s. This one you've seen before. The Southern Living 1982 Annual Recipes Cookbook, this is from the 1980s. Valentine's Day is just one of those holidays. It's one day. Most sections in like holiday cookbooks or just regular cookbooks are only gonna have a few recipes. So that's why I decided to go to 3 different cookbooks to source my desserts for today. Valentine's Day is coming up quick, but there's still time to bake something delicious for the people you love. I'm kicking things off with this Crustless Brownie Pie. This is from the Southern Living Cookbook from the 1980s. This one seems very easy to make and doesn't take like a ton of ingredients, so let's see how it turns out. Combine first 7 ingredients and beat for 4 minutes at medium speed with an electric mixer. Half a cup of butter. I'm doing the full recipe. I figure this one's gonna be easy to give away, right? Who doesn't wanna have something called brownie pie? Actually, I think I am gonna break up this butter just a little bit with the electric mixer. Let's do that first. I don't know, it just feels a little weird to me to just mix everything all at once. So the second ingredient, half a cup of all-purpose flour, 1/4 of a cup of cocoa, and a cup of sugar. I have 2 eggs here, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and just a little pinch of salt. The recipe says to beat this for 4 minutes. A lot of you are very interested in my mixer because it has a light, but it also has a timer. So it'll, you can keep track of how long you've been mixing something, if that's important to the recipe, you can keep track of that very easily. And yes, you can set a timer for 4 minutes to keep track of how long you've been mixing something. I would do that if I didn't have this kind of mixer. Bringing in a pie plate. There are supposed to be nuts in this. Making a call, leaving them out. In this case, I don't think that they're absolutely necessary. It says to spread the batter evenly in a 9-inch pie plate. This is 9.5 inch, so hopefully it's not too far off, but it's what I've got. Oh, I have to butter this. 1 moment, please. Usually I'm very good about doing something like that ahead of time, but I just missed it. So now I have to spread this batter into my buttered pie plate. All right, I think this is a job for an offset spatula. Yeah, I could probably do this without it, but I think I'm just gonna do better. I'm just gonna do a better job with it. And this little guy really comes in handy for a lot of things. Yeah, this is good. There it is. There is one more instruction I want to point out, and I'm very excited about it. Pie will puff, then fall slightly. I love when recipes include little gems like that because then I won't freak out when my pie falls slightly because it's supposed to do that. So it says bake in a 325-degree oven for 35 to 40 minutes. And while my pie is baking in the oven, I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Factor. You know I love to cook, but sometimes I just need a break from all that chopping, mixing, and baking. That's where Factor comes in. Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to my doorstep. Their meals are 100% ready to heat and eat, so there's no prepping, cooking, or cleanup needed. And Factor is flexible. Get as much or as little as you need by choosing 6 to 18 meals per week. Plus, you can pause or reschedule your deliveries at any time. There are over 35 different chef-prepared options per week to choose from that fit a variety of dietary needs, including keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more. When I tried my first Factor meal, my immediate reaction wasn't, this is delicious for a microwave meal. It was just, this is delicious, period. With Factor, I always have something delicious and nutritious on hand, ready to eat in 2 minutes when I don't even want to think about cooking a meal for myself. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code COOKINGBOOKS50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and free wellness shots for life. 2 free wellness shots from 3 available flavors for every order while you're an active subscriber. Thank you again to Factor for sponsoring this portion of the video. Back to the desserts. Looking good. And here's what the whole pie looks like, just so you know. I did have to I did have to take one slice out in order to get a really nice looking second slice out. So that's why there's a big wedge out of it. This smelled incredible in the oven. Of course it did. Like, I was afraid it was gonna drop more, like sink more in the middle because of what the recipe said, but I think it looks pretty great. I ended up baking mine for 35 minutes and it was just right. So keep an eye on it, you know, go according to what you're feeling, what your oven does, all of that. Super excited to give this a taste. You can serve this with whipped cream or ice cream. It would be good with either or none, probably. Really great. That is delicious. I think a lot of people would like this. You could put the pecans or walnuts in it if that's your thing. I happen to like it like this without them. The top of it is like thin and shattery, like that's how I like brownies. It's nice and dense inside. Oh, it's so good. I put a little freeze-dried strawberry on top of mine. I got those at Aldi. They're super fun to snack on, but they're really good for garnishes as well. I'm gonna eat that. So of course this isn't just for Valentine's Day, but chocolate makes me think of Valentine's Day. But this is something super simple that you could whip up and make a really delicious and impressive dessert. So not all Valentine's Day desserts involve baking. I'm gonna be trying to make these strawberry hearts, and as you can see, they do have gelatin in them. And these are the strawberry hearts, like the pale pink ones. That's what I'm going for, so we'll see. So this recipe requires frozen strawberries in syrup. So I went ahead and I just like drained them over a measuring cup. You're gonna dissolve the gelatin in the syrup. So make sure that you get that kind of frozen strawberry instead of the loose frozen strawberries in a bag. Add enough water to the syrup to make 1 cup. So I have my syrup and water mixture. Now I have to heat this to simmering. And now comes the gelatin. So I have to add 1 package of strawberry flavored gelatin to this and dissolve it. You know, I don't make a lot of gelatin molds, so I feel like I'm being a little bit brave today. Let's dissolve you. Oh, it smells like a strawberry candy factory in here. Like those strawberry bonbons, you know what I'm talking about? I think we're dissolved. And now I have to add my strawberries that I've drained, of course. That's where our syrup came from. Gosh, I hope this works. Once that's mixed in, I'm gonna stick this mixture in the fridge. There's one other step I really thought about here. I typically try to stick to the recipe, so that's what I decided to do. But if you're worried about stability with your gelatin molds, this is like advice that I've gotten from a couple of what I consider gelatin mold experts. They told me that you can bloom some additional unflavored gelatin and then add it to your mixture. I'm not gonna do it today and just, you know, keep my fingers crossed and hope this works. Okay, gelatin mixture, it's thickened. I mean, I let it go for 45 minutes. I also have 2 cups of unsweetened whipped cream. I will say this was a heck of a lot of cream to whip, and this bowl maybe was a little on the smaller side, so I probably should have done it in my stand mixer, and that's what I'll do next time. I have already come up with a plan just in case this doesn't set in the refrigerator overnight. I'm gonna freeze it. I mean, frozen whipped cream jelly strawberries, that sounds good to me. Hope for the best but plan for the worst, am I right? So I need to fold this whipped cream into this mixture right here. Sometimes when I do this for the camera, it's a very awkward angle. That's when I switch this way, which is not the best. Not the best when you're trying to film, but it's a heck of a lot easier. So we're folding. That actually kind of looks awesome. The way that it's like a little bit of a marble. You kind of want to be gentle, but you want to make sure it's incorporated. It's time for the molds. Oh my goodness. It just says heart molds in the book. It doesn't say size or anything, so hopefully these work. Again, on the advice of people who are better at making gelatin molds than I am, I'm oiling them. And I know some of you are probably just screaming at me saying, just use cooking spray. I don't actually keep cooking spray on hand. It's not something I really use. Nothing against it. Like, use your cooking spray. It's just not something I keep on hand. I actually have a little glass spray bottle with just vegetable oil in it, and I just squirted a little into each one, and I'm kind of brushing it. A little bit of extra insurance to get these hearts out. Oh man, if they actually work. If they actually work. I think we might have more mixture than we do hearts, so let's just dig in and see. And I have a feeling this is probably gonna be a little messy, but I'll do my darndest. There's a lot of mixture here. Oh no. Well, I'll figure something else out. How many hearts? It says 9 servings. How big were the heart molds that they were using? It kind of worked out perfectly because my molds fit pretty much exactly on my little sheet trays that I like to use. So that gives them a little more stability, and I can easily move these around, you know. Let's swap. Oh, maybe we'll make it. I don't know. These are quite a bit more pale than I expected too. I was really thinking they would be a little bit more pink than this, but I still like them. Yeah, there's not like a ton in here. I'll probably just like stick it in a bowl and chill it. I don't know if this makes a difference, but I kind of want to clean them up a little. Here's where we're at. It says that I have to chill these until set. Well, I'm gonna let them go overnight. I'm gonna put them in the refrigerator overnight. Fingers crossed, they actually do what they're supposed to do using the ingredients list provided in the recipe. If it doesn't go well, I may stick them in the freezer, but we'll get there when we get there. And yeah, I will give you an update on these tomorrow. Little update on the gelatin hearts. What are they called? Strawberry hearts? There we go. I think they're just strawberry hearts. I panicked a little bit this morning, but I have 2 separate molds on 2 separate trays. So I decided to leave one in the refrigerator and then put one in the freezer. And it's kind of perfect, honestly, because I know a lot of you like comparisons, or like, you know, you like when I mention, hey, I baked this item at this temperature for this long. I went longer with this one. Like, here are the differences. I wasn't planning on using these for like a fancy event or something where I was going to be feeding them to someone else for a dinner. So they don't have to be perfect. So I thought, like, let's just try it. Let's just try one from the refrigerator, one from the freezer, and see how they turned out. This is from the refrigerator. It has a very mousse-like texture, just like when I touch it a little bit. It's set up. It's set up. It's just, it's not like gelatinous because it's got cream in it. And then this is from the freezer. And this pattern tells me that the top of this mold touched the bottom of the freezer drawer on top of it, and I have a mess to clean up, but that's fine. We'll get to it later. Oh, that's surprising. Okay. This frozen one seems to be peeling away easily. I have a feeling it's not gonna be the case for this because it's very like moussey, spongy. Yeah, you can kind of see. I'm gonna try like dipping this in a little hot water in my very clean sink. Okay. Whew. So this one, quickly dipped it in some hot water. We're just gonna flip it and see. It did feel like it released a little bit. I just don't think the edge is gonna be super clean because of the texture of the dessert. Yeah, it's, you know, it's not bad. It's not good. I don't love it. Don't love it. Let's do this. I just feel like I'm gonna have such a better result with this frozen one. Yeah, like, look at that nonsense. Look how perfect that is. Okay. Oh yeah, this like unmolds just worlds better than the other one. Yeah, this looks like visually better than this is going to. Oof. Oh no, look at that. Look at that. I think this is gonna taste good, but I just not loving the look of it. I mean, I'm fully gonna eat these guys, even if they're not perfect. But yeah, I mean, that one's probably the best one right there. Oh, there's still one more. Fun. Yeah, okay. I mean, I kind of expected that. As you can see, freezer versus refrigerator. Visually, I think freezer won. We're gonna have to see how it worked out taste-wise in a minute. The frozen beautiful hearts and the slightly more blobby strawberry mousse kind of heart. You know, I think they're both gonna be incredibly tasty, so I'm not really bothered. Let's just start with, this is the refrigerator one. Let's start there. Oh yeah, the texture is like soft and mousse-like. That is so good. I think even if you didn't want to put this in like a mold, maybe you want to put it in little dessert coupes or something in refrigerator, it tastes really good. It's not super, super sweet. I used strawberries and syrup. I used strawberry flavored gelatin, but the whipped cream in this is unflavored and it just balances perfectly. So maybe visually in the heart mold, this did not work super well, but taste-wise, super good. So visually, these are better. I don't know what the texture is quite gonna be like. Oh, it's nice. I mean, it's a little ice cream-ish. Okay, so you cannot go wrong with either of these. I think if you wanna impress, if you wanna do some kind of mold, you're probably gonna be better off, you know, here's what I did, just to kind of outline it. I left both of the molds, like both of the trays of molds in the refrigerator overnight. I woke up this morning, kind of checked on the texture a little bit just by like lightly touching it. And I was like, you know what? Let's put one in the freezer. So one of the molds was in the freezer, maybe like 5-6 hours, something like that. Visually, again, freezer, but honestly, just taste-wise, and like if you want a softer texture, just mix up the mixture and put it in like little dessert bowls and then refrigerate it. And I think people are gonna be very delighted and impressed. It tastes so good. So I'm trying out these cherry coconut bars, and unfortunately there's no photo of what these look like. So I kind of can't wait to see how they turn out. I think it's gonna be really festive with all these like maraschino cherries in the bars. So this bar is layered, and we're starting with the crust. Mix all ingredients and spread in a pan. Ingredients We got butter. This is gonna be kind of pastry, like a pastry-ish kind of crust. We've got some flour and some powdered sugar. So I am cutting this recipe in half, but I will list the full recipe in the description down below. And it just says to mix this together. So I am gonna do that and then we'll move on to the next step. We have sort of a crumbly mixture here. Some of you probably want to tell me that I should take 2 knives and cut the butter into the flour. I am not coordinated enough for that, and my pastry cutter, I think I broke it, and I haven't been able to find one that I personally like enough. So, fork works well for me. It says to put this into a pan. It says a 9 by 12, but I'm cutting the recipe in half, so I'm using this square pan. And I did put a little parchment in the bottom. I made this mostly because it's like a little sling, and I want to be able to remove the bars pretty easily if possible. So I'm gonna just like pat it, pat, sort of evenly down here. Little bare spot right there. We're gonna cover it up. Heck yeah, we're moving right along here. So that's the crust. It says to bake at 350 degrees for 15 minutes. While the crust is baking, I've brought in the ingredients for my filling, so we'll get to work on that. So I've got an egg. Need to beat that up just a little. It just says to mix everything. Very simple instructions. I've got some sugar. We got a little flour and some baking powder and salt, some vanilla, chopped nuts. I went with pecans, but I suppose you could go walnuts. I bet almonds would be really good in this. For some reason, in the last, I don't know, year or two, I've really started to enjoy pecans like way more than I used to. So that's what I went with. And you can't have cherry coconut bars without the coconut, or for that matter, the cherries. These are maraschino cherries. The recipe says to just mix all of this together. It doesn't say anything special that I have to do. I think it does look kind of pretty. The little bits of cherry kind of like peeking through here. I know this is a small amount, but I'm cutting the recipe in half, but how pretty is that? Crust just came out of the oven, which means now I can put this on top. So now I'm gonna use my little offset spatula. Again, I mean, you can do this with a knife or the back of a spoon or whatever you want, but this just kind of makes things easier for me. It's got a little bit of a pink tinge to it from that maraschino cherry juice. But I really do love how it looks with all of the little cherries kind of peeking through. So now I need to bake this for 20 minutes at 350 degrees. So here we are out of the oven. I did cut down on the bake time for these. I only went, I think, like 16 minutes because they were getting so brown on the top. I have let these cool for maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes. So I'm gonna pull them out carefully with my little sling. Yeah, okay, happy. Now, one thing I'm a little disappointed because you cannot see the beautiful little maraschino cherries peeking through. So I hope when I cut them that maybe, maybe you're gonna be able to see that a little bit more. And I'm not gonna measure this, I'm just gonna go in. Ooh, they feel good. Feel nice being cut. I'm just gonna cut one to try. Think it looks nice. Yeah, you can see those cherries coming through here. They smell really, really good. Sweet, coconutty, just a little bit of like caramelization. That's what I'm getting here. Okay. They're just lightly sweet. The bottom crust here is a little crumbly, which I like. It's like light and sandy almost. It's kind of a good mix with that like sugary topping or filling. Nice texture. I love it with the pecans. I know not everybody likes nuts in their desserts and baked goods and stuff, but I think they add a really nice texture here. I like these a lot, and they kind of remind me of like Easter or springtime. This was not specifically a Valentine's Day recipe. I mostly chose it because it had maraschino cherries in it. Maraschino cherries are red. Valentine's Day colors are like red, pink, white, etc. So that is why I chose it. But it does, like with the coconut and the very like light sweetness and just the light texture of it, it does remind me of spring, which is on the way, I promise. Honestly, kind of, okay, this is not exact. This is not exactly what they are. I think it's because of the coconut and the caramelization. Kind of remind me of like magic cookie bars a little bit, but not as like heavy and rich. I really like these. I would definitely make them again. It's not something I've ever had before. Maybe this is a recipe that you grew up with or you like to make, but it's new to me and I enjoy it. So that was a little different, right? 3 cookbooks. And typically I stick with 1 just because then, I can pull 3 recipes from the same cookbook and just talk about it as much as I want, kind of. But I went with 3 this time. There's not really like a huge abundance of Valentine's Day recipes. Even in this book, that is specifically a holiday cookbook, I think it's 3 pages that are dedicated to Valentine's Day. And sometimes the recipes are like heart-shaped sugar cookies, which are fantastic. Who doesn't want a heart-shaped sugar cookie? I just wanted to choose some recipes that maybe like weren't the same things you were gonna be seeing over and over. Hopefully that's what I accomplished, but we'll talk a little bit about each cookbook. How about that? So this first one, this is where I got the Crustless Brownie Pie. This is the Southern Living 1982 Annual Recipes Cookbook. I have covered this book before. I actually made an entire video that was a full day of 1980s meals using this book. And the thing I like the most about this book, other than some of the fantastic recipes I made in that video, sorry, tangent. I've had so many of you tell me those hot French cheese sandwiches were incredible. They really are. So I'm gonna link the video for the 1980s Day of Meals. I'll link it in the description down below because you have to watch it if you wanna make those fantastic sandwiches. Anyway, back to back to my little discussion. The thing I love the most about this book is that because it's like an annual cookbook, it is separated by month. So this is a book full of recipes from each of the Southern Living magazines published in 1982. So the recipes for February came from the February issue of that magazine, so that was perfect. I went with the Crustless Brownie Pie. I went with the brownie one because it reminded me the most of Valentine's Day. You think like hearts and chocolate and things like that. This recipe was just a snap to put together. I think it was very important that I beat the ingredients for a full 4 minutes. I think it had a lot to do with the lovely texture. I don't know if I'm different than other people, but I have pretty much all of these ingredients in my pantry at all times. Something that's easy, something that I don't have to go to the store and get special ingredients for, which is, you know, that can be really good when you're trying to just like whip something up. I think making it in pie form made it a little special too. So I could cut it into like neat little wedges and kind of garnish it with a little whipped cream and that little bit of freeze-dried strawberry, just to make it, you know, just to elevate it a little bit. I had fun with that one and it was so easy. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. I don't know where I want to put this. We'll put it down here. So we have the second book that I cooked from, Better Homes and Gardens Holiday Cookbook. So this one is from 1959. And surprisingly, I've never cooked from this book before. I've had a copy of this in my collection for quite some time. And it's like part of one of my favorite Better Homes and Gardens eras, where they have all of these beautiful, colorful photographs. Some of them are so whimsical. I mean, can you handle that cake, right? Better Homes and Gardens Holiday Cookbook for special occasions, anniversaries, foreign flair, 345 party recipes, birthdays, coffee, teas, buffet, coffees? Anyway, there are a lot of occasions in here. It's like holidays, but it's all kinds of special occasions that don't necessarily fall into the national holiday kind of category. The photographs in the February section are really beautiful. That is just so pretty. And it's the pinks, the reds, the whites. I adore these plates. I think they're so pretty. Yeah, and then this is the page with the little hearts that I made. So it's the ones on the little plates here. It's a little hard to see them because this particular dessert, it consists of like the little strawberry heart I made and then like a JELLO heart on top, and then like it's draped with some like whipped cream and strawberries and stuff. So I just made the one component. You know, it didn't set in the fridge quite the way I wanted to in those molds. Flavor-wise, whether you decided to refrigerate it or freeze it, I thought it tasted so good. Like a light, frothy, foamy kind of dessert. Not quite as heavy as an ice cream. Kind of like a frozen mousse. Just the right amount of sweetness and just like a little tartness too. I mean, it was pretty easy to mix together. If you're gonna put it in a mold, that's gonna be more work. But I think you could probably mix up the components, put it in a bowl and serve it that way and call it strawberry fluff or something. It probably exists as strawberry fluff, who knows? I thought it really tasted good. And if you want that visual impact, I would say freeze it because it tastes just as good. The texture is a little firmer, a little bit more like ice cream, but it tastes just as good. So it just kind of depends on what you're wanting to do. If you get a chance to get a hold of this book, highly recommend that you do, because even if I haven't cooked a lot of recipes from here, I have looked at this book a lot because the photographs are so beautiful. Finally, we have Cookie Cookbook. This one is from 1965. These are cookbooks. It's like Favorite Recipes Press, and these were used for fundraisers. So like not exactly the type of like community cookbook that you would think of at a church or just an organization where like a local community where people would like combine their recipes and compile them into a book. The recipes come from people, they do submit them and contribute them, but it's all over the place. So there's recipes from Texas, New York, Ohio, Illinois, Gary, Indiana, everybody. So they come from like a wider array of places, I guess you could say. I actually have a few of these types of cookbooks in my collection, and I'm planning a video using another one soon, actually, so stay tuned for that. I made cherry coconut bars, and I really like how this cookbook is arranged. They have them separated kind of like by type, bars and squares. I love a bar cookie, I just do. Filled cookies, so like whoopie pies, rolled cookies right here. So you're thinking like your cutout cookies. I like having those different categories. My cookie book, not exactly like that, but you know, I'm always gonna love my cookie book. So it's kind of funny, something about this cover though, does it not remind you of the 4th of July because of the red, white, and blue? I'm not sure if they intended it to be that way, but like this blue curtain, the red and the white here, and then, you know, there's like a tablecloth, but you know, I chose to use this for Valentine's Day. Those cherry coconut bars, really good, kind of different, very light, you know, sandy, crumbly kind of crust with some coconut. I wasn't sure, you know, how thick and chewy it was gonna be, but it really wasn't. It was just kind of a nice little, I don't know, lightweight kind of cookie. I think, you know, you could cut those even smaller and they'd be like nice and dainty and might be fun to have for like a tea or like a cookie table or something like that. I couldn't really see the cherries on the top. You know, when I cut the bars, you could kind of see them peeking out of the sides, and I really liked that. I like maraschino cherries. I know it's not everybody's thing, but I enjoy them. And the flavor of the cookies, I mean, I keep saying it was nice and light. It just was. It was just that light, kind of coconutty flavor, sweet but not too sweet. I feel like I keep saying that too, but that's what it was. Just a really enjoyable little cookie. Not super hard to put together. It did have a couple of different layers with that like crust and the filling on top, but probably like not any more difficult than a lot of other cookies that I make. Do I have a favorite? That's really hard to answer. I liked all of these. They were all kind of different from each other too, so I liked all of them in different ways. Did you like this format? I don't know. I almost always stick to one cookbook because it's just kind of easier for me. But sometimes, you know, want to shake things up and, you know, let's try some new things in 2024, right? I'd like to say thank you once again to Factor for sponsoring this video. If you'd like to give Factor a try for yourself, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code COOKINGBOOKS50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and free wellness shots for life. You'll get 2 free wellness shots from 3 available flavors for every order while you're an active subscriber. If you love vintage desserts like I do, I have an entire playlist and I'll link it in the description down below. If you'd like to see some additional content from me, you can join me over on Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description down below if you're interested in signing up. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.